Well, now let us delve into the whole issue of, or the whole concept of justice. I think many of you may be having this particular idea that why law? What is the purpose of law in the society or the civilization? Is it not that the ultimate objective or the ultimate purpose of law is the justice? If that is so, what is justice? How justice has been defined from time to time? What are the important parameters which constitute justice? But paradoxically, what is justice for one person, it may not be the justice for the other person. I'm going to that particular aspect later on, but let me first take you to one of the very interesting theory of justice, and that theory of justice is called theory of justice as fairness, and that's been given by John Rawls. This John Rawls, who happens to be an American political philosopher, he has given this particular theory which describes a society of free citizens holding equal basic rights and cooperating within an egalitarian economic system. Now, this particular theory of John Rawls, where he has talked about justice as fairness, he had in a way, criticized or disagreed with that kind of political thinking which was prevalent at that point of time, given by Bentham, that is utilitarianism. He argues that justice as fairness provides a super understanding of justice to the dominant tradition in modern political thought, that is utilitarianism. Now, this particular theory aims at just arrangement or the distribution of major political and social institutions of a liberal society. You must take cognizance of the fact that this particular theorist was a kind of a liberalist and a liberal thinker altogether, and what he was concerned about was primarily how the resources in the society can be distributed in a fair manner. Now, why he laid emphasis on the distribution of resources? When I say resources, I mean to say not only social, political, economic, all resources. Now, what is the need or requirement for this fairness? There is a need for requirement, a need for distribution of resources on a fair manner, because people are not situated on an equal footing. I repeat, people in the society are not situated in an equal footing. We, as an individual, we do not have a choice to which family we will be born or we are born to. We do not have a choice. If I am born to a rich family, it is also as a matter of fortune, and if I am born to a poor family, that is also because of it's a bad luck, or because of I do not have fortune to be born in a rich family. Now, if that is so, how the society is going to allocate different resources between a rich and a poor person? Because both the categories of people may not have the skills or may not have the equal capabilities to acquire the resources which are there in the society. Let me explain further, explain about this particular concept further. Rawls says, and very interestingly, the basic structure is the location of justice because this institution distributes the main benefits and burdens of social life. Who will receive social recognition, who will have whose basic rights, who will have opportunities to get the kind of work, and what the distribution of income and wealth will be, and so on, has this institution require justification. Once we are born to a particular society, we cannot say that we do not want to live in a society. We cannot escape from the society, but the fact remains that if we cannot escape from the society, is it a justification that society can do anything and everything that whatever it thinks to be right or whatever it thinks to be appropriate? The answer is no, according to John Rawls. He is saying, even if the people are innocent, they may not be knowing about many things, but when it comes to the societal morality, that morality has to be based on fairness. That means, irrespective of the positions people occupy in a different strata of the society, the resources of the society have to be allocated on a fair and equal footing. Now, as I have already discussed with you, the society cannot justify the particular fact that the people have consented to it because they were born in this particular society or particular civilization. And since the rules of any basic structure, that is the society, what Rawls is talking about, will be coercively enforced, often with serious penalties, the demand to justify the imposition of any particular set of rules intensifies further. That means, I as a citizen, as a person in the society, I have every right to ask for the justification of a particular criminal law which has been applied against me. The society or the state cannot say that you were born in this society, that's why you are bound by this law. The answer is no, according to John Rawls. But say that everyone has got a right to know why a particular action has been taken, and that is why he was focusing on this whole issue of how fairly, if you look at the Code of Criminal Procedure in India, you find that in almost all the provisions, what is expected or what is being mentioned is that, or what is implicit in there is that the constitutional test of fairness and justice. Because if the procedure is not fair, one might feel that injustice might have been done to a particular person. Now, two guiding ideas that John Rawls was talking about. Number one is the social cooperation in some form is necessary for citizens to be able to lead decent life, yet citizens are not indifferent to how the benefits and burdens of cooperation will be divided amongst them. Hence, cooperation should be fair to all who are regarded as free and equal. I think it's a beautiful exposition of justice what John Rawls has given to us. That means it has got different, both positive as negative connotation. Now, the negative connotation of this particular thesis is that the idea that citizens do not deserve to be born into a rich or poor family, to be born naturally to more or less gifted than others, to be born female or male, to be born a member of a particular racial group or so on, since these features of persons are morally arbitrary. That's why I told you about, we do not have a choice to which family we will be born, we are born to. We do not have control. So citizens are not entitled to more of the benefits of social cooperation simply because of them. Now, if I am born to a rich family, doesn't imply that I deserve more in life than somebody who was born to a poor family. These resources have to be allocated in a fair and equitable manner. The Now negatively, what is the negative connotation of that? John Rawls' theory. The idea is that since citizens are fundamentally equal, reasoning about justice should begin from a presumption that corporately produced goods should be equally divided. Justice then requires that any inequalities must benefit all citizens and particularly must benefit those who will have the least. Now this second component of John Rawls' theory of justice, or his understanding of justice, also justify what we have in India or the Indian Constitution, something called reasonable classification. Because at times the state ought to give something more to the people who have been left out. It is not defeating the very purpose of equality in the society, but I would say that it is only expanding the horizon of equality, or it is only serving the greater cause of equality for the society at large. Now what are the two important principles that John Rawls has given on his justice as fairness theory? The first principle, let me read out for you. Each person has the same indefeasible claim to a fully adequate scheme of equal basic liberties, whose scheme is compatible with the same scheme of liberties for all. Now, let me explain to you what is the first principle in itself. Equal basic liberties. Now that means it is the rights the Constitution of India gives to us, or for that matter any constitution in any country. What is embodied in any constitution is that particular basic principle that it is liberty of conscience and the freedom of association, freedom of speech and expression, rights to vote, public office, rule of law, so on and so forth. That means this first principle gives us a lot of rights and liberties which are essential for us as citizens and persons to lead a dignified life. Now, what is the second important feature of this first important principle of John Rawls is that it requires a fair value of political liberties. What does it mean? The Rawls requires that citizens should be not only formally but also substantially equal. That means citizens who are similarly endowed and motivated should have similar opportunities to hold office, to influence election and so on, regardless of how rich or poor they are. I should have an equal right to contest election if I am born to a poor family as that of another man who is born to a rich family. I should have the same right to hold a public office if I am born to an affluent family, and so is the person who is born to a poor family if the other requirements are the same. Now I cannot be given more benefit, or the state or the government cannot give preference to me over the other person merely because I belong to a rich family and the other person belongs to a poor family. The second principle that John Rawls was talking about, it is social and economic inequalities are to testify to conditions, very importantly. They are to be attached to offices and positions open to all under conditions of fair equality and opportunity. I repeat, under conditions of fair equality of opportunity. And secondly, they are to be the greatest benefit of the least advantaged members of the society, the difference principle. Now, that means the way the state or the government endeavors to address inequalities in the society, the trust has to be on the fact that everybody has to share the burden. That means, this, as I have already stated, there's nothing wrong in giving something more to the people who are least advantaged. Now, there cannot be equality among unequals. Equality can only be amongst the equals. Now, if you want to bring those unequal to the status of the equal, you have to be doing some amount of positive discrimination, and that is what John Rawls is talking about, the second principle. And he has beautifully expressed this proposition when he stated that in justice as fairness, Rawls says, and I quote, men agree to share one another's fate. I repeat, in justice as fairness, men agree to share one another's fate. Since the class of origin is a morally arbitrary fact about citizens, justice does not allow class of origin to turn into unequal opportunities for education and meaningful work. I think with this elaboration, you people are having more or less some idea about what justice meant to this particular political philosopher called John Rawls. Now, let me take you to one of the most contemporary thinkers, the great economist and philosopher of our time, that is Professor Amartya Sen. Now, Professor Amartya Sen has given an interesting concept called the idea of justice. Now, what John Rawls has given us the theory of justice, and what Professor Amartya Sen has talked about is the idea of justice. Now, let me explain this particular idea of justice given by Amartya Sen in simple words to you. And let me tell you a story. There were three small children, and these small children were named as Annie, Bob, and Carla. Now, forget about these particular names that he has given. Just assume that there were three small children who were fighting among themselves regarding the ownership of a flute. I repeat, the children were fighting among themselves regarding the ownership of a flute. The first one said the flute should be given to him because he is the one who knows how to play it. And the others two are saying yes. Amongst three of them is the number one. Annie, for instance, knows how this flute can be played. Now, if we happen to listen to only him, it is a very justifiable fact that the flute should be given to him because he is the one who knows how to play it. Now, Professor Sen says, if you listen to the other child who says the flute should be given to him because he is the one who has made it, who has manufactured it. He also has his own justification because it is only through the dint of his labor that particular flute was manufactured, that particular flute was made. Why not the flute should be given to him? Again, if we only listen to his part of the story, we feel and we might incline to give the flute to the second person. But when it comes to the third person, he also claimed the flute on the ground that he is the poorest of all and he has no other flute to play with. Now, friends, one person said the flute should be given to him because he is the one who knows how to play it. Second person said the flute should be given to him because he is the one who has made it. And the third one says the flute should be given to him because he is the poorest of all and he has no other flute to play with. Now, in this particular situation, if we have to do justice or if we have to define what justice, is it not a very, very complex thing to do? Because all have equally justifiable claims over the truth. It depends, friends, in who is the person who is deciding on this particular case, what is the background that person comes from. There cannot be an absolute justice. I always keep saying that justice is relative. Similarly, when you talk about law also, please remember that it is important to see what the law is, but equally important to see why the law is. Who has made this law? When you look at a particular judgment or the decision of the case, don't only look at what has been decided, but do look at who has decided the case. What is the background of the person? What is the social, cultural, economic background of the judges? Because judges are also human beings. Now, the cases of similar kind, where there could be equally justifiable claims from different quarters, it becomes extremely difficult to say in absolute terms that I have done justice. So this is all about justice that I wanted to deliberate before you, because it is a concept which has always been a very, very difficult concept, or very, very complex concept to define within boundaries or within a particular discipline. That is why it remains I would say that a particular subject of critical inquiry across all disciplines. Friends, finally, I would like to see the relation between the law, society, and justice. Over the 2 lectures, what you have learned is primarily the law, the jurisprudence, the justice, so many things, their relations, their contradictions, and how what are the critical areas to be understood as far as their interface of law, jurisprudence, and justice is concerned. Now, when it comes to media laws, as media professionals, this particular understanding is important because we as media professionals, we are dealing with social realities. Now, when we deal with social realities, when you report about a particular case, particular news or particular views, we have to be not only rightly reporting the things, but also justly reporting the things. Certain times, what may be right may not be just. And for the justness to happen in our day-to-day, professional life, it is important for us to take cognizance of law, jurisprudence, and justice, or the different theoretical framework within which we operate. You have innumerable number of media laws. I'm sure you are going to understand these media laws well, and also different jurisprudential aspects which is implicit or explicit in those laws. But always remember that it is a 4th pillar of the democracy. When you are bringing those realities to the masses, we have to do it within the parameters of law. And if at any point of time you feel that a particular law requires reform based on the ground realities, we should be duty bound to talk about that. No law is static, not even media law. But who is going to bring about these reforms or the changes in law, if at all required? You, me, we people. And especially, the media professionals has got a duty, I would say fundamental duty, towards seeing that the purpose for which the law is being enacted, the justice, if it is something is lacking in those laws, or there is some inherent problem in the laws, we should be also concerned about that. We should be also, enlighten our masses about that, so that, the cry for justice or the cry for reform can happen. Now, along with the great contribution that media is playing as the fourth pillar of democracy, I would say that, and I strongly feel that this is an area, the legal reforms and the critical understanding of law, which is perhaps not that great to the extent it is desired even among the masses, among the people, should be the media professionals should actually be one of the important messengers for this, one of the reformers in that direction also. With that, I would like to stop here today, and I hope that in both these lectures, the lecture 1 that was on law and jurisprudence, and lecture 2 today it was on law and justice, you have been able to understand the fundamentals of law, jurisprudence and justice. Thank you so much.